Hi, so in our last extract, we learned about Fionn as he went through his first adventure, that against the half giant, half Fomorian Bergen. After that, Fionn would go on his own again and he would travel eventually to the north, and that's where we're going to read our second extract. As Fionn gazed into the bright amber flames of his campfire, the words of Bommel came back to him. There are three things that give great comfort in this life, Fionn: watching a fire burn, watching waves wash in and out, and spending time in the company of others. In the year and a half since he had bid Bommel and Brack farewell, Fionn had watched many fires burn and countless waves wash in and out. After narrowly avoiding capture by Bergen, he made his way north. He'd spent the summer through to autumn, including his 13th birthday, high in the Spurn Mountains, where few people lived. In winter, the bushes grew bare, and game left the peaks to take shelter from the harsh northern winds. So he spent the cold months hunting, fishing, and foraging near the great Loch Ness. The spring had brought brightness and warmth, but it had also brought people outdoors. So once again, he moved eastwards this time, to the Mourne Mountains. Throughout this time, all he had for company were wild animals, and although they offered him some solace, he missed the companionship of others, especially Bommel and Brack. So, at the beginning of that second summer on the run, as shouts, roars, and cries of joy drifted up from the valley below, Fionn found himself drawn back to the world of mortals. It had taken him a few days before he realized that they weren't fighting each other. Instead, they were playing some sort of sport. Fionn crept down the mountain slope through the furze bushes until he could command a view of the field. Each evening, boys his own age would gather there. Holding strangely shaped sticks, they would chase after a small ball. They would hit it either one way or the other, depending on the colour of their tunics, and that was as much sense as he could make of it. Up and down they went, waving sticks and shouting. Along the sides of the field, a line of animated spectators cheered them on. At first it looked violent, but as each game passed, Fionn realised that much fun was being had, and with every roar of approval, the more Fionn wanted to get involved. But how? Ah! Fionn's thoughts were interrupted by a shout from one of the players below. Looking down, he could see the red-haired youth who had dominated proceedings, holding his ankle and writhing in pain. Clashes were common, and rarely an evening passed without at least one person getting a little bloodied or bruised. However, judging from the worried faces that now surrounded the youth, this injury looked a lot more serious. With the game having reached a premature end, Fionn decided he would use the opportunity to slip unnoticed up the mountain. Or so he thought. There it was again, a flash of fair hair, hardly visible, but it was definitely there. Cana had become suspicious that the young hurlers of Clan Rooney were being watched as they played in the shadow of Slieve Donard. She had kept a close eye on the surrounding hills. Finally, after a wonder strike from her red-haired elder brother, Ullon, she again spotted the slightest flicker of activity amongst the furze bushes. The next day, she again saw movement in the same thicket of shrubs. Someone was watching, and that someone, Cana thought, could only be the opposition. They had obviously come to spy on the boys ahead of the great Ulster Hurling Championship. Every summer, the young boys of the province followed in the footsteps of their forefathers by playing epic games against each other. These games would begin in the late afternoon, often with the first call of the evening corncrake, and continue until the last sliver of sun set over the horizon. The games would be played all summer long until just two sides were left to fight it out at the home of hurling, the ancient fort of Eamon Mocha. The champions would win the right to bring the great black bull of Auchmacloy back to their clan for a whole year. Cana, not yet 14, was small and nimble, with long brown hair that she was always tucking behind her ear. She was brave to a fault and dreamed of bringing the bull home to her family, but knew it was unlikely to ever happen. Girls rarely played hurling, not because they couldn't, but because most captains were boys and many of them wouldn't play in the same team as girls. Cana could not remember a girl ever played for playing for Clan. Never remember a girl ever playing for Clan Rooney. With her brother now captain, she couldn't imagine that changing. He wouldn't even allow her to train with the team, even though she could run rings around most of them. Despite all that, it didn't stop her wanting the team to win. They represented her clan and her village after all, and with her brother Olán in great form, Cana thought that this might be their year, the year that they would finally beat their fierce rivals, Clan Colgan of Anaclún. She did not want anything to threaten that, least of all a spy, so that was why, for this training session, she was not standing on the sidelines, but slowly snaking her way across the mountainside towards the mop of fair hair, 50 steps away, 30 steps away, 10 steps away. Ah! Cana's attention was diverted to the playing field. There, in the centre of the field, her brother lay writhing in pain, holding his ankle. As she gazed with worry down at Olán, she briefly forgot the person she had been stalking. And when she looked back, the mop of fair hair was gone, at least for the moment. In near darkness, Fionn sneaked into the village. With one player now injured, he thought the opportunity for him to join in might have arrived. But first he needed to learn how to play the game, and to do that he needed a stick. All his attempts at making one had failed miserably, so he was going to take one. After just a few minutes searching, he found several sticks lying up against the wall of a small hut. Quickly, he grabbed the most worn one. Perhaps its owner would appreciate having to find a replacement. However, as he turned to leave, Cana stepped out in front of him. Care to tell me where you're going with that? With what? Fionn responded, shocked at her sudden appearance. The hurl. The what? The hurl you're holding, Cana repeated, as if she was speaking to a Fomorian. You mean the stick? Yes, the stick, she said sarcastically. The hurley stick. Oh, I didn't know that's what it's called. Oh, come on now, Cana snapped. You want me to believe that a spy from the opposition doesn't know what a hurl is? I'm not a spy, Fionn replied, hurt by the accusation. Well, what are you then? Sneaking around at nights, stealing our hurls, spending the evenings watching the boys train. Fionn was taken aback. As careful as he had been, she must have noticed him watching from the firs. I'm not a spy. I'm a shepherd, he blurted out. A shepherd, eh? Cana said. Really? With what clan? I don't have one. Oh, so whose sheep are you shepherding? I don't know, Fionn answered. I'm a freelance. What on earth is a freelance? It's like when you sell your lance or sword to a chief to fight for them in exchange for food and shelter. You become a freelance. I do the same except for sheep. You fight for sheep? Cana giggled. No, I sell my lands to work and protect the sheep. And are the big wolves up on the slopes? Cana asked, taking stock of Fionn's lance, sword, dagger, and hand axe. Fionn knew that, whoever this girl was, she didn't seem to believe him. He also knew that she could raise an alarm before he would have a chance to do anything, presuming he would be able to do something. The way she was holding her own hurley stick suggested that he might have his work cut out. Yes, lots of wolves. It's always dangerous. Having pushed him so far, Cana relented and turned the conversation back to Hurl. Why are you sneaking around at night robbing hurls when you could just come down and join in with the boys? I'm not very good. I don't have a proper hurl, and I didn't want to embarrass myself. After some thought, Cana smiled. Fine. I'll tell you what. On the far side of the mountain, there are 3 ginormous boulders surrounded by heather. Meet me there tomorrow after hurling is over and before it's dark. We'll make you a hurl, and I'll teach you how to play. Thanks, Fionn replied, but why? Why help me? Give me something to practice. Give me someone to practice with, Cana said. What's your name, by the way? After a brief hesitation, the reply came. Fionn. My friends call me Fionn. What's yours? I'm Cana. It means wolf cub. But don't worry, I don't bite. Well, not my friends anyway. As Fionn left, he wore a broad smile and felt a sense of satisfaction that had been long missing from his life. And that was one of the first friends, and probably one of the closest friends that Fionn would meet. Cana, who not only will play a big part in this book, will play a part in the next.